Okay, hello. What's your name and what brings you to JCON?
Hello, I'm Ondro Mihalyi. I'm came here from my company Omnifish to support the Eclipse Foundation booth and Jakarta E, and we're also involved in Eclipse Glassfish project. So that's what we're going to promote here. And we're basically a company that is a Jakarta E member. So we're involved with a lot of Jakarta E activities, and we are involved in Eclipse Glassfish, what I already said, but we also provide support for Eclipse Glassfish for companies that use it. We built a new runtime based on Glassfish components, which kind of aims to provide an alternative to Quarkus, Helidon, and Spring Boot in the area of Jakarta E with all the Jakarta E APIs. And we're here just to help and talk to anybody who's using Jakarta E and get a feedback of what they
Mhm.
think about it and how to make it better.
I've never used Glassfish before. What should I know about it? What does it offer me as a Java developer?
Okay, so Glassfish is an application server, but it's more than that. Like nowadays, many people think that application servers are obsolete and they don't need them. That might be true in some cases. In other cases, you still can benefit from clustering, administration console, and a lot of things like transactions provided to your application that you don't need to care about. Also, monitoring is there. A lot of things that you don't need to build into your
Mhm.
application. It's just there when you run your application with Glassfish. But you can now also embed Glassfish in the same way as embed Tomcat. You know, Spring Boot by default embeds Tomcat
Yes.
to run the application. So you can do the same with Glassfish and still benefit from all the services that it provides that you don't have to build into your application. And it still provides the whole Jakarta EE APIs. So if you have a Jakarta EE application, a WAR or ER, you can still run it with this embedded version of Glassfish.
Yeah. So yeah, most people are not aware of it, but Spring uses Tomcat inside. You can change it with Jetty, for instance, which is also another web server. So Glassfish has other benefits compared to Tomcat.
Yes, it does, but mostly for Jakarta E applications. So Spring Boot uses some parts of Jakarta E, but
Mhm.
most of the things are not compatible with Jakarta E. So if you run a Spring Boot application on Glassfish, you can still have some benefits of monitoring and troubleshooting options there, but it doesn't give you so much if so much more than Tomcat.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If you have a Jakarta E application, then you can have less code in the application than in the Spring Boot application. And then you can run it, or you can embed Glassfish, and you have a lot of these because Glassfish will understand your application better.
Mhm. A lot of developers go to Spring because they know that's the best. It's used a lot. What is the advantage of going to Jakarta EE?
The advantage is that you can choose the runtime. That's one thing that most people don't really realize and don't even see the value in it because they are happy with Spring. But maybe then they face some situation where Spring is not the perfect case. Like in IoT devices, you need to have a really small
Mhm.
application, or a serverless. You need to start your application very fast, and that's where Spring is okay, but doesn't excel. With Jakarta E, if you write a Jakarta E application, you have the option to choose the runtime you run it on, and these runtimes are compatible more or less. Maybe you will need to tweak some things or refactor some things that are not standard, but it's very likely that you will have, with little work, you will be able to run your application on any of these.
Mhm.
But in reality, you usually target some runtime, so you don't have to really migrate between runtimes, but you have the option to reuse your knowledge. So if you learn Jakarta EE platform, the APIs and the specification, you can run an application that scale in big clusters and on application servers. But the same with the same knowledge, you can write small applications if you choose a small runtime that even supports native compilation like Quarkus. Then you can reuse your knowledge, build the application, and get something completely different
Mhm.
than with application servers or with Spring Boot.
I'm working on a few blog posts about Java being able to handle from the edge devices up to the biggest cloud environments. And that's actually what you're saying. If you have an edge device which is, for instance, collecting data from sensors, and you want to process that before you send it to the cloud, there you could have a Jakarta EE application running on a small device, for instance. That's what you...
Yes, provided that there is a runtime that is small enough and fast enough to run on these IoT devices.
Yeah.
For a long time, there was no such runtime, but recently there are some runtimes that support that, like Quarkus. There's also Helidon, which is sort of, they don't support all the Jakarta EE APIs, but much more than Spring does, for example. They try to support, or at least the relevant parts of Jakarta EE for their use case. We're building a new framework, Piranha, or it's not so new anymore, but it's still not mature enough to compare it to Quarkus. It's called Piranha. It's based on Glassfish components, and it's very small, or at least you can take only those parts of Jakarta you need, and you can make it very small and fast, like in 200, 300 milliseconds if you really shave it to the basic. And with these runtimes, you can really run on IoT devices very comfortably with things that don't require much memory, that don't require too much CPU to start, and also on serverless, which is sort of like IoT devices, because there you can have a lot of memory, but then you still care about starting your applications very fast, because it may be started for every request, and then you don't have to slow down every request. So now you have these options. It's a pity that for Jakarta EE, for a long time, there were not so good options. Like for a couple of years ago, I think 5 years ago, there were no good options like this. But since Quarkus and Piranha and Helidon started, you now have a lot of options with the same Jakarta EE API to build small applications.
Okay, thanks a lot. That's a nice message. And I hope people visit your website or come to the booth to talk to you and learn about all these technologies.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.